Welcome to Wow, Writers on Writers, a virtual broadcast of writers talking to other writers about, wait for it, writing. I am your host, Danielle Bannister, and this month's broadcast theme is Rom-Com. And because of that, my guest today is
MC Cerny. Jazz hands.
Welcome. Now, before we dive into rom-com, which is short for romantic comedy, if people couldn't piece that together, would you humor us, tell us a little bit about yourself, your books, and maybe when you wanted to be a writer?
I think I've always, and I think a lot of writers say this, like you've always kind of done a little bit of writing, like here and there. And, growing up, I would write like awful poetry. I mean, I think I killed a few haikus. And, one of my first stories that I remember, I was in 7th grade and I wrote this like suspenseful bakery theft. Someone stole a blueberry muffin and it turns out, the dog ran off with it. It was this whole dramatic thing. And I just really loved the process of it, creating this story, having something crazy happen and then trying to figure out who did it. And that was really like the beginning for me. And, in college, I kind of dabbled in like writing historical romance, which was something that I have always read. I don't know why. I think I would steal my grandmother's, old Harlequin romance novels. I'd be like, she's not going to need it now. And so for years, that's all I did. All I did was read historical romance. And then I tried to write it and I realized how difficult it was. And I thought, maybe I should just stick with what I know, which is like, the internet, coffee, technology. And so I started to write contemporary romance. And that sort of kind of, I guess, was like the beginning. And I don't know, something happened in the early 2000s, Y2K, not sure. And I just wanted to tell stories. I wanted to tell stories that had like a happy ending that, made me laugh. I don't know that I really had any intention of publishing anything. And then I had gotten out of a not so great relationship and I thought, well, I lived that, so I want to read something else. I want to write something else. And that's really, I think, how this all kind of, came about, this whole journey into publishing. And when I first started, I mean, I knew nothing. I didn't know how to find a cover designer. I didn't know what editing was. I was like, oh, you mean someone else has to read this and red pen it? It was just this huge unknown. And I think when I know now, if I knew that then, I probably would have approached things a lot differently, which I think a lot of, our writer colleagues will say that too, because it was a huge learning hurdle. I knew no one, nothing, it was just like, let me put this out here and see what happens. And, that was probably around, when did I publish? January 2016 was the first time I published. It took me 18 months to write that book, which I've since unpublished. Maybe I'll rewrite it, it's not a bad book. It's my book baby, what I mean?
I've contemplated that same.
Yeah, I haven't found the right audience for it, and people are throwing tomatoes because I want the next book, and I'm just like, listen, it's not happening. Yeah. I love you. Thank you for being a reader and a fan, but this is not going to see the light of day, at least for a good decade.
Right. So you've been writing since 2016. I'm going to bow my head so you can see just a few of your titles. All the pretties of your titles. there.
Baby.
How many, and I know you don't write just rom-com, you dabble with other things as well, but how many titles currently do you have published?
I had to go through and count them.
A lot
So
then.
I have, yeah, well, I want to say like about 25 titles currently like for sale, we'll say, and 36 or so that are, right there. So, I mean, I've done a little bit of writing.
A little bit. Are you full-time? I don't know if I know the answer to that. Are you a full-time writer
I'm
or are you
not.
part-time?
I am a part-time writer. I would love to be full-time. It just hasn't been in the cards yet.
Yeah.
So, we do what we do.
I hear you and I feel you. So while rom-com certainly isn't the only genre that you'll write about, we'll talk about those in a little bit. What drew you to romantic comedy? Like why write that genre out of all of the genres in romance and elsewhere? Why that?
I love a good laugh. If you can get like a good like snort laugh out of me or make me pee my pants, I will totally admit to, then it's a good book to me. And that's something that I really try to put into my books. Now, I can't promise that my humor is really everyone's cup of tea because I'm like a 12-year-old boy in a girl's body sometimes.
Same.
And everyone's different, we're not always going to think the same things are funny, it's okay. But I do try to bring that to my stories, particularly these two series that I do have out right now that I'm expanding on in their worlds. And I just love the characters, and I want the characters to feel like a good friend. There's someone that if you met them, you might want to be friends with them. You might even say, wow, they have some stuff going on. Maybe I want to stay away from that drama train a little bit. Watch it from the sidelines with some popcorn, but still have a good time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. My first intentional rom-com was The ABCs of D. And I remember when I was writing it, because it was completely a different tone than the books that I had written before it. And I was worried about the level of snark and that maybe it was pushing the line of good taste. And should I put that kind of stuff out there or not? Did you ever grapple with where's too far?
I think people would say I like to stretch the boundaries of what's too far. I don't know. I mean, go big or go home, some people will love it. Some people won't. And you just hope that those are the ones that don't write the reviews.
Agreed. Agreed. Talk to me a little bit about your writing process. I mean, you've got an insane amount of books, so you must have a very strong sort of work schedule or discipline of some sort. Like, what do you do? Teach me.
You see this cute little board back here, this Kanban board, which is like new for me. And my little vision board and whatnot. So I try to be organized, but the reality is, maybe I have like some undiagnosed adult ADHD. I don't know, but my writing process is like 1,000 Post-it notes flapping in the wind. And that's the reality. I mean, even on my desk, I've got, Post-it notes all over, write things, lose it. And I'm like, well, I guess I'll save that for a different book. Yeah. And, I am a writer who, I'm kind of a pantser. I'm kind of a plotter, sort of, like I said, it's like a mishmash. It's whatever happens, happens. I only have a handful of books that I've been able to write from beginning to end because I saw them as like this Technicolor movie that I just knew exactly what was going to happen and how and who was going to say it and who was going to do it and all that stuff. And for the rest of them, I do better when I write really specific scenes. And then I connect the scenes, you know, when I find like the appropriate bridge. You know, so most times I'll write the end. I know exactly what's going to happen at the end. I know how crazy it's going to be for them to get to that happily ever after. And then for me, the biggest struggle is sometimes that first meet cute. You know, how the heck do these people meet? Like, what would possibly bring these two people together? I mean, if it was me, I would have said, see ya, I'm out. Why would I date that guy again? But that's not what happens in the book. So
yeah, it's a journey for you as well.
Oh, it is. It is. And I have a few, particularly in the Love Design series, where I think I know where the characters are taking me. And we get so far in the book and they decide that, nope, now it's time to take a left turn. You thought the plot was going that way? Nope, surprise baby, you know, or something crazy. And so I just, you know, I tried to fight it, you know, no, this is what you're going to do. This is what you're going to say. And the characters are like, well, then we're just going to go quiet. And there's really no bringing that back.
They really are in the driver's seat.
Really are my muses.
Yeah. They are in control.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Is there a certain time of day? Is there a certain time of day that you feel like you're more productive? Like, are you more a night owl or early bird, or just whenever inspiration hits you?
You know, inspiration hits me at the weirdest times. Like, I'll be in Target and I'll be like, oh crap, I better have some Post-it notes in my purse, because now what? But I will say that I am most productive probably between like 10 at night and like 2 in the morning, which I hate because I want to sleep. I really do.
But it's nice and quiet. There's nobody online. There's no distractions. It's yeah. I find that like 4 or 5 in the morning time works well too for that lack of distraction time, and everybody's asleep. But I'm just a morning person. I hate it too, but
I wish I could be that way.
Yeah, I think it's ingrained in you. I don't know how to change it. I think you just are or you aren't. It's just one of those things. Speaking of things that we hate, like having to be up when we want to be sleeping, we'll do both. What is your favorite and least favorite parts about writing?
Oh gosh. Some of my favorite parts, world building. I love that. I love writing the end first. I love writing first kisses. Things that I don't like, I would say editing. If I have not cried through an editing process at least once, then I'm like, why am I doing this? I haven't had that like emotional cathartic release yet about how awful this book must be. Editing is really hard for me. I really struggle with that because, you know, you want the words to be perfect. And I mean, my characters aren't perfect. The book's not going to be perfect, no matter how many times you go over it. And I really stress with that a lot. So that's a hard part for me. And the beginning, writing the beginning is definitely a struggle as well. But once I kind of get through that hurdle, like I said, I'll write the different scenes and then I work to kind of put them together.
Right. Yeah. I the editing, I just, why? It's one of those things you look at your words and go, really? I thought this was good the first draft. I really did. I thought this was good. We are our own worst critics, though, I think sometimes too.
Yeah.
Now talk to me.
And how many? Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, like, and having, I mean, I have some great editors, you know, and so having a good relationship with your editor is also important, because oftentimes, especially when I'm pushing the boundary, they will send me notes like, are you sure you want to do this? And I'll be like, yes, I do. And then after I get it back, I'm usually like, well, maybe I should kind of rein that in a little bit.
Yeah. It's good to have people to rein us in sometimes. Talk to me a little bit about the other genres that you have written, and if there's maybe a favorite genre of the ones you've written that you particularly enjoy.
I do like romantic suspense. Lately, I've been working on a dark romantic suspense series, which is starting to come out now. So I have like the prequel and the first book out now. And again, I kind of like pushing the boundaries, you know. I don't want to say like I'm a rebel, you know, but I like to write things that are kind of surprising. You know, again, you think the plot is going to go in one direction and I just decide to flip it on you. And, you know, especially with this new series that I have coming out, my Revenge and Legacy series, most of the reviewers have said, I'm not really sure what I read, but I'm here for the ride. So I'm going to take that as a positive.
I would take that as a positive.
It's a long series.
If they want to get on the ride and they're going to go back again for the next one, then it's good.
The train has left the station. Promise you it's not coming back.
Oh, I wanted to talk to you also a little bit about pen names and what your thinking is around pen names. I know that there is some thinking within the author community that pen names should go with a genre. So if you're writing fantasy, you should have one pen name. If you're writing YA, you should have another, so on and so forth. I'm wondering, is that something you ever considered doing, or what your thoughts, I guess, are on pen names and genre matching that way, or if you just want people to know it was you?
Well, again, this is a lot of, I kind of wish I knew more when I started, because I definitely would have picked a pen name that would not have led people to know that it was me. Because there's a certain freedom in being able to write whatever you want and not have anyone, you know, kind of say, you know, how could you write that? Like, is that what you really feel? And it's like, no, it's a story. And just because you write a story doesn't necessarily mean that you kind of buy into that character's behavior or their motivations. And I think I always wanted to write darker romance and really test the boundaries with things, but I did not choose a wise pen name.
I didn't pick a pen name at all, so that might have been a little stupid.
Yeah, so I feel like there's this level of exposure, you know, because I still have to go to work, you know, I still have to pick up my kid, you know, and watch all the other, you know, PTA moms like, oh, she writes romance, you know, and it's like, don't judge me.
Yep.
And so, you know, I think that's why I really stuck with the romantic comedies for a long time. I keep coming back to them. One, because they're really fun. And for me, I don't really feel like anybody's looking at me when I write them. Like, funny is okay. You know, when you kind of cross the line, you know, sometimes you have people who, you know, will say things and whatnot. And I sort of just got to a place where I was like, I don't think I care, you know. I mean, most people tag me and tag my Facebook page and it's my first name, which is unusual to begin with. And so, you know, it's me. Oh, well.
Yeah. Well, I have two teenagers now in high school, and so far they have not read anything of mine, and I really don't want them to ever. I don't want their friends to read them. I just don't do it. Those are not for you. So speaking of sort of that, I mean, this sort of rolls into the next question that I have. because you're writing lots of different genres with lots of different characters in different situations, do you think that people often confuse you with the characters that you write? Like, do you think that that's a pretty much a given? Like, when the relatives read one of your books, they think you are that twisted or whatever. Do you think that that's
Oh gosh,
a
I
real?
hope not. So I will say this. So in all of my books, there is some element of me. I will never tell you what that element is. I will never say, oh yes, that definitely happened, and that's why I wrote it that way. Because that's sort of a funny, like, haha for me, like, because you'll never know. But yeah, so there's always a little bit of me in my characters, and it's not always the female main character either. Sometimes it's a side character who's acting like a real, and it's like, no, that's me. Just injecting like my own humor into the situation and things like that. But yeah, I mean, with the whole pen name debacle, and I did try like a different pen name, and I did Amazon KU because I wanted to keep it super separate, which, that's a whole debate for another time. But it was just too much to handle, so I was just like, well, it's not fun for me to like manage, 2 websites, 2 pages, 2 like identities.
It's too much.
And so I just said, yeah, I was like, forget it. I mean, I like that pen name. It's a cute pen name. You totally never know it was me. But it was a lot. And I don't do this full time yet. So, that was a really big struggle for me. Yeah. But now, I just kind of molded into one, and I'm really particular about my covers and explaining to my readers, what this book is and what this book isn't. And they're pretty good,
Well, I think readers are pretty smart and can,
oh yeah.
I mean, a cover will tell you pretty much what the genre is, and they'll know, yeah, not going to read that one. That one's going to be freaky. Yeah. But this one, I'm there for.
That one's for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and they're so sweet and they're so kind, because I have a lot of people who are like, well, we totally bought the book because we know that you wrote it, but that's not our jam. And I'm like, that's okay.
I'll take your money anyway. That's fine. Thank you. Speaking of, go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, so I recently had this email from this very sweet reader who I could tell a number of things just based on her very kind email, that she was perhaps maybe a little bit older, a little more reserved. And so she dabbled into my newest series, and, her email was basically like, I'm not sure what happened here. I think I picked up the wrong book. Did you actually write this? I mean, but she was like, I don't know that I can write a review because there was a lot of stuff in here that I'm not used to. Now, I do give a very like explicit like warning in the beginning of the, like, there's some language, there's some sex, there's some stuff that,
not for the faint of heart.
It's not the funny, happy unicorn kind of stuff. This is like dark and twisted, and, and she was, she was very sweet. She was like, I don't think I'll finish the series, but, you did a good job.
Yeah, I have some like that as well. They're like, this is a little different. Then yes, it is. Mm-hmm. I don't control the muse. The muse went there.
Yeah.
I followed. I'm just the vessel.
Sharp left turn. Sorry. Let me direct you to the support group on Facebook.
Yep. It's often like that. You'll be writing a book and all of a sudden something happens in the book. You're like, oh, that's where we're going. okay, so a lot of times this stuff isn't planned, readers. We don't, it isn't premeditated. It just happens and we follow it. Speaking of sort of the roads that we take when we're writing, I'm wondering if you might humor us with reading a few lines of one of your books over the black back of the jacket blurb, or just something to give us a little tease of your writing voice. Are you up for that challenge?
I think I can manage that. So I actually have some of my books that are going to the moon. So I'm a part of the Writers on the Moon project.
Well, aren't you fancy?
So I was very excited. I know, I was really excited to be like selected for this. And so I chose my rom-coms because if aliens ever come and they decide that they're interested in us, I didn't want like an angry kind of alien, I wanted like the happy kind. So that's why I chose my rom-coms to go to the moon, if that makes sense. I have a fear of like aliens, coming, and anyway, I'm old. They don't want to reproduce with me, so it's fine. So there's that. But anyway, so two of my favorite books are from my Love by Design series. So Heartburn and Mine to Keep.
Ducking down so they can see covers better.
And so Heartburn is like an age gap kind of romance. This is actually the book. It's the third book in the series, and it actually prompted the whole entire series. So I wrote the first like 15,000 words as like an anthology. It had like a happily for now kind of thing. And I had people kind of come back and say, well, now what? And so over a period of time, I actually wrote that book. And then I thought, there's some stuff that happens before this book. There's some people that get together. And so the first two books came from that, while this sort of sat on the shelf waiting to be published. So anyway, this is Heartburn. So Whitaker Jones could have funded the Interior Department's conservation budget with his own pinup calendar. The last thing this sexy forest ranger wanted was to go on a search and rescue mission for a stubborn college co-ed throwing a temper tantrum. He's got a hot date manning his front porch like a grumpy old man in his rocker with a carton of takeout for dinner. Amelia Ray Faust hates the outdoors, man buns, and lying, crush-stealing roommates. I do too. A hike in the woods turned into an existential vision quest for the girl without a plan. She wasn't supposed to get lost or have a one-night stand with the surly forest ranger. His body heat was far too tempting, and a night of survival becomes something more. So, and of course, it doesn't hurt that he's got like a really attractive, pettable man chest on the cover.
No, that never hurts. That never hurts. Or as I like to call it, abs.
Yeah. And then, because I couldn't help myself, I found this. It's a stock photo, that I had as, the cover. But
it's pretty.
Forearm porn was like, whoa, like this man needed a book.
Yeah. I would agree with you there. There's nothing wrong at all with that cover.
Yeah. So he turned out to be one of the side characters who just sort of like showed up and like needed a story. And again, I was kind of surprised by this. I guess I write my characters out before I kind of start writing the book. Sometimes it doesn't always happen that way, but for this series, like, they grow up together. So a couple of them live on the same street, and then some of them move away and come back, and some of them never leave town because it is a small town kind of romance. And it was, the characters surprised me, which is why I haven't been able to. I said I was going to stop the series at 8 books, but there's a 9th book coming.
Don't that's okay. You know, if there's readers that want it and the muse is talking, write it.
Yeah.
That's all, you know.
Yeah.
Feed the readers what they want.
Yeah.
Before we go, where would people go if they wanted to learn more about you and your work, or maybe buy that book that you just read, the back?
Oh. Well, so I am a wide author, so all of my books are available on all platforms. So you could, my website probably needs updating, to be honest.
Websites always need updating. It's a constant, it's never ending.
Not enough time.
There isn't.
It's on a Post-it note somewhere to, update the website. But no, Amazon is a great place. BookBub is a great place because you can get all the links there from the BookBub website. And yeah, so those are probably the two best places, BookBub and Amazon.
Well, great. Well, that does it for us. Tune in next month. Our theme will be women's fiction, and we will be talking with guest RJ Keller. Thank you for joining Writers on Writers and our Rom-Com broadcast. Goodbye.